Hi everyone and welcome to my new channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make these resin and feather paperweights.
Okay, so the first step you're going to need is a mould. I've got a latex mould that I've pre-made, but you can use anything from a silicone mould, metal, plastic. You can buy one or you can make one yourself. It's completely up to you. You're going to need to secure your mould. I'm just using a plastic cup with a little bit of PV in the bottom just to give it a little bit of weight. But you can use anything. It depends on the material of the mould you've chosen and the shape of it. You can use pegs, all sorts, so it's completely up to you. I'm just using something very simple just to give it a bit of stability. Secondly, you're going to want to pick whatever you want to put into the mould, into your paperweight. I'm just picking a selection of colourful feathers. You can use anything you want, it doesn't have to be feathers. Just try to avoid real fruits and flowers, especially if you're using polyester, because the heat will react with the object and the water will leak out and that will destroy your cast, because resin absolutely hates water or moisture, so avoid that at all costs. Epoxy, you can get away with it a little bit, but polyester gets so hot you've got absolutely no chance. So I am using feathers and I'm just going to put as many as I can in. I don't want to put too many in, but I want enough so that it goes all the way from the top of the mould all the way back to the bottom, quite separate and spread out. Next we're going to start mixing our resin. I'm using a polyester resin from Easy Composites, but you can use whatever resin that you've got available. Just make sure that you're using it in a well ventilated space and that you're wearing gloves, especially if it's polyester. It throws off horrible toxic fumes, and it's something you really don't want to be breathing in, so make sure it is in a well ventilated space. You're going to want to mix your resin with your catalyst. Depending on what make and what brand you've got, depends on how much catalyst you should mix, but all the instructions will be on the tin or it'll come provided when you buy it. You don't want to mix too much catalyst into it, because otherwise your resin can crack, it can go yellow and very brittle, but you also don't want to put too little in, because otherwise it just won't set. You'll just end up with a gloopy sticky ball that you won't be able to do anything with. And once you've got that mixed up, you're just going to want to pour it into the mould with the feathers already inside and make sure it goes all the way to the top of the mould, because resin will shrink, and shrink quite significantly, so get it all the way to the top as high as you can get it without spilling it. I ended up spilling it anyway, but that's besides the point. Once that's all done, you can sit back and relax for between 4 to 6 hours and wait for the resin to set, but preferably leave it 24 hours just to make sure that it's 100% solid. Once it is solid, just give it a quick tap on the top just to double check, and now you can demold the paperweight. It will be a bit of a struggle and a bit of a chew on trying to get it out, but you will eventually get there. It'll just take a little bit of time and a little bit of strength. What I did realise with the paperweights that I get out, because of the mould I've used and the resin I've used, I get quite a rough and sharp finish to the paperweight, which isn't something I wanted. So I am going to sand all of that off and make sure it's nice and smooth and polished, because this isn't the surface I want my paperweight to have. So I'll show you how to sand the resin and the paperweight next. This next step is completely optional, because if you manage to get your paperweight out of your mould and you're completely happy with it, it came out nice and smooth, or you like the rough surface, then that's fine, you're done. You might need to do a little layer of varnish afterwards, but that's it. If you haven't and yours turned out like mine and you do want a nice smooth surface on it, you're going to want to sand it. So for this I used an Orbital sander, a power sander. You can hand sand the paperweight afterwards as well, but it's just a lot more labour intensive. So if you do have a power sander, feel free to use it. But you want to start from a coarse grit, so a low grit. I started at a 60, and then a 180, then a 320, a 1000, and then a 2000 to finish it off. So you want to go very coarse, and then slowly as you sand away the layers, you want to go higher and higher to a much more fine sandpaper, and that'll just eventually start to buff off all the scratches and leave you with a nice finish. One thing I usually do is I use a green kind of scourer, and I wash the paperweight in between the sanding so I can see how it looks. If you pour water over the top of it, usually it gives you a good indication of how it'll look once you've put the final layer of varnish over the top of it. So that is a trick, so you can see if you've missed any bits, if any bits need a little bit more attention, or if it's looking really good and fine. You will need a dust mask, and I'm wearing sunglasses in this, but I would recommend wearing goggles. The only reason I didn't wear goggles is because they kept steaming up, so I whipped out my sunglasses. But definitely use a dust mask, because you don't want to be inhaling all the resin dust particles. I don't know what they do, but I can't imagine they'll do you any good. So yeah, just keep sanding away, sand the layers. It will look quite scary when you first start doing it, because you're like, oh no, I've ruined the surface of it. But don't worry, it'll get better. Just keep going and going, and soon you'll start to see it becomes a little bit more clearer and a little bit more clearer. And once you've finally finished your final sanding layer, it'll become quite an opaque, frosty looking surface. You can keep it like that if you want, if you're happy with that. It does look quite nice, but if you want a very transparent, glossy finish, then you're going to want to apply a little bit of varnish afterwards. And the reason you apply the varnish afterwards is it fills in all them little scratches and little crevices that have caused by the sanding, and just totally finishes it off and makes it look really nice, transparent and glossy. But I'll show you that next. And we're finally at the last step, which is now just to apply a thin layer of varnish. I'm just using a glossy interior varnish from Ronseal. It's very quick drying, and the trick is you only want a very, very thin layer. You don't want it too thick, because you'll get little white spots. So just use a very thin layer. You can use a spray varnish if you want, but I just find you have a lot more control with applying it with a paintbrush. You can make sure you get every bit. Once you've done the top bit, flip it over, do the bottom, and then you're done.
Right, okay, so that's done. We're finished, and this is the final product. And I think it looks pretty decent. I really like the colour combination. But again, you can experiment and play around with different kinds of colours and different materials as well. You don't need to use feathers. You could use anything you want, like I said before. It is a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work though, but I think it is worth it. But I'll leave a long list of instructions down below in the description, so go check that out. And comment down below if I've missed anything out or I haven't explained anything properly, and I'll try and get back to you the best I can. Give it a like, subscribe. This is a new channel. I'm just trying something new, so support would be really appreciated. And I'll see you in the next video. Alright, bye. Hi everyone, and welcome to my new channel. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make these resin and feather paperweights. But let's crack on. No, that was shit. Hi everyone. No, nah, terrible. Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make these resin and feather paperweights. Right? No, that's shite. Absolutely bollocks. Oh, fuck's sake. Come on. Thank God for that. Jesus.